I set out to try and do is my son, my eldest, will be 5 very soon. And 4 years ago, coming up 5 years ago, I just remember sitting around in antenatal classes with my wife and just being the supportive dad, doing the things you feel like you should be doing through the whole process. And at certain points, just thinking, this is all, there's nothing for dads. If I was struggling at that time, which thinking back, I don't think I was. Um, if I was, who would I talk to? Where would I go for advice? There's no poster on the wall in the antenatal waiting room, as it was, maternity ward, saying, dads ring this number, dads check out this website. I mean, that's changed a lot now, and there's a lot been done, and there's a big movement for mental health, and in particular men's mental health at the moment and over the past 12, 18 months. But back then, I don't remember seeing anything. It was just a case of that I worked in that sector at that time in adults mental health, and I had a bit of a knowledge and a bit of a background as a support worker, not as a qualified psychiatrist or psychotherapist or anything. So I just had a bit of an understanding of where I was at the time and what I might have needed, and I was fairly good at recognizing when I needed to talk to people, see my mates, just get out of the house and do something different, and that worked for me at the time. But not everyone has that opportunity, and certainly in the past 18 months, people haven't had that opportunity because everywhere's been shut because of COVID. We haven't been allowed to go anywhere or do anything or ask you, mate, if you want to go for a coffee or something. So that's been kind of taken away from us. And starting this podcast, I just wanted to give an opportunity for people to share different stories and different backgrounds, and reach as many people as possible, because we've all got varied backgrounds and varied stories, but we can all sort of interchange and cross over at the same time. So you might get the stay-at-home dad or the single parent dad, and they have got a different story to somebody who's a younger dad, maybe with a first-time parent, in a relationship, and things are all nice, and they're just experiencing it for the first time and enjoying it. There's lots of different stories to share, and people can pick up the bits that they need, and that's all I can hope for, really. But
that's still so useful. That, I mean, early you said not being qualified in psychology, things like that, but that doesn't, I mean, obviously that stuff is useful, and I'm never ever gonna like bag on something like that at all, because it's my wife is a psychology graduate, and I've learned so much from her, and I think it's helped me to understand a lot about myself and ways I'm feeling. But simply just being able to go and tell stories is so useful, just from your own experience. And the best thing that any parent can do, regardless of gender or roles or whatever, is to tell people your story, and provide advice, be supportive. And you mentioned before about the lockdown, and being able to see people and stuff like that, and it's I was so lucky to have a really great support network around me, especially from my wife, who just gave me everything that I kind of needed in order to sort of get through the tough times. And I do the same back to her as well, of course. And some people might not be so lucky, and especially during the first lockdown we had, way back in March, April last year, where we couldn't see people. All the play parks were shut as well, and
yeah,
that was, in later lockdowns, that was absolute saving grace for us, because we had a child who has got an absolute abundance and surplus of energy. He needs to get out. It's like a dog, he needs to be taking walkies once a day, sort of thing.
yeah,
And so parks are shut. He doesn't understand why, and we can't explain it to him, because he just doesn't get it, that like this idea of a global pandemic, people are getting sick, people are getting ill, and for the safety of others, we can't go to the local park. And it really, really takes your toll on your own mental health. They always trapped inside, can't leave this 2-bedroom flat that I live in, with my wife and son, of course. And yeah, it's just the three of us, just trapped, locked in together. And I've been on tours before with bands and artists, and you're trapped in a van for 10-15 weeks, however long it is. You could barely stand the sight of each other by the end of it. But this is now your significant other that you're doing it with. You're in absolute close quarters, close confines with them,
Yeah.
trying to just survive. And that's all we realized between us, that all we could do was just try and survive and make it through it. And it's so important to understand that you're not the only ones. Like, there are other people out there who understand and can help and can, you can talk to, and there are stories out there just like yours that can really help you, give you a bit of guidance, a bit of inspiration, just motivation, and just hope as well, because that was something that I lacked in a lot, was hope.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, because the support was out there. It's so cool though that you've found something that you obviously have passion for to do during lockdown in starting up this podcast. So for me, I started doing music during lockdown last year, and for me it was postnatal depression was really getting the better of me. I had been I'd gone to my GP. I'd been diagnosed. I was really lucky in that my wife has dealt with depression, things like that before in her life, in terms of obviously I mentioned before, like prenatal depression and postnatal as well.
Yeah.
And so I was encouraged to go get a diagnosis, go to the doctor. So I got the diagnosis, was told I had postnatal depression, but there wasn't really a lot that could be done besides trying different things out. So naturally I got put on waiting lists for mental health clinics. I got put on antidepressant tablets as well. They actually had a negative effect on me. It was, it just wasn't for me. I tried 3 different kinds, and I just decided, like, enough's enough. This is actually making me feel considerably worse, which was, a real shame, because I know plenty of people that it's worked for, just didn't for me for whatever reason. I ended up getting some counselling, which helped me understand a lot more about myself, why I was feeling the way I do, and why I react to certain things the way I do as well. So I have an eating disorder as well. I'm a binge eater, which was just completely, like, just amplified by the postnatal depression. So I was binging a lot. It wasn't really a comfort thing. It was more like abusing myself. So some people,
Yeah.
they tend to, like, drink, drugs, that kind of thing. It turns out that I turn to food. And so in learning that that's why I turned to food, because that's something I didn't understand before, it helped me to understand a bit more about myself, why I react the way I do, and kind of signs to look out for as well. My workplace, I was having some just some trouble settling into a new job as well at the beginning of 2020, and I ended up getting sent to occupational health, which was really supportive of my workplace to do. They were very invested to do something like that. And I spoke to occupational health. They told me about what I've been doing, what was my diagnosis, how I was feeling, things like that. And they said, look, if you continue the way you do, you're going to end up in psychiatric, in like mental health ward at hospital. Like, there's just no other way about it. And so they were very direct with me about that. And so I ended up getting a bit of time off work, which was really useful, and I ended up actually starting releasing music again, which was something really important to me. I've been playing music since I was 12 years old. I joined my first band when I was 16, did my first tour when I was 16, been playing with bands, doing tours, gigs, recording, all that kind of stuff ever since then. And in April 2019, I ended up quitting a band that I'd been a member of for 5 years. And I was the main source of finance for that band. I was the main songwriter, but did a lot of the production. I was the one finding all the gigs, doing all the marketing. So it was something that I really put my heart and soul into, and it was a big part of my identity and and just me as a person. And it was really all I did outside of the whole family and day job kind of life.
Yeah.
And it was all gone, just all in one moment, as soon as I quit. It was just a real shame that had to happen. But when members of your band start turning up to gigs, having drunk half a bottle of Southern Comfort, or not turning up at all to gigs, you kind of start to reevaluate whether you want to be a part of it or not.
Yeah.
And So that was all gone, and I spent a year getting let down by the musicians trying to set something else up, and that really just sort of made things worse for myself as well, where I just had no identity. I just felt like I didn't really have much to live for, really, because I was struggling with postnatal depression, so I wasn't forming that great of a relationship with my son either.
Yeah.
So that really wasn't giving me the kind of satisfaction that I needed in life, in order to kind of basically have a reason to continue living. So those thoughts of, what's the point, and suicide, stuff like that, it really does start creeping into your mind. And then June last year, whilst I was having some time off work, for depression, I ended up just I started getting lessons from my old guitar teacher, and I had some encouragement from those around me as well to start releasing music solo on my own. So now I make um, lo-fi hip hop, chill hop beats, which is really great for people who are working from home. Hint, hint. And that's given me kind of a new identity in life, and it's been a huge, just huge benefit to myself, where I'm able to kind of have this outlet, which is what it was at first, just this therapy to be able to kind of express myself through music, regardless of whether it is instrumental or not, and kind of tell my story to people. And it was purely for me at first, and then I started getting messages from people on Instagram, especially from all over the world, like Singapore and Dubai, places like
Yeah.
that, saying, "Oh, I really like your music, and I'm hearing your story, and I'm posting on Instagram about the meaning behind songs." People are like, "I
Right.
get it. I feel exactly the same, and I know exactly what you mean," and things like that. And I was just like, "Wow, this is actually like making a difference to people. People are listening, and
Yeah.
people are like, actually going out of their way to contact me to tell me about this stuff." And I only ever expected to get like, like two people ever listen to my music. It was just purely just to, you know just to be creative. But
Yeah.
then now I feel like almost this sense of like responsibility and opportunity to be able to go out there and tell my story to the world, and really make a difference and help people by kind of promoting mental health awareness, and essentially like what you're doing, really providing resources for those who are going through it, who are struggling to be a parent because of lockdown, or because of depression, or it's just a new experience for them. It's so important to have these stories, and provide resources and support to people. So